Hi everyone, welcome to new lecture of thermodynamics. I am Dr. Mohammad Uzair and today we are going to solve some numerical problems for chapter number 4. So here we have the first question. We have a piston cylinder device that contains 0.05 meter cube of a gas initially at 200 kilopascal. At this state, a linear spring that has a spring constant of 150 kilonewton per meter is touching the piston but exerting no force on it. Now you have to add some heat. By adding the heat, piston will rise and it will compress the spring until the volume inside the cylinder is doubled. The cross section area of the piston is given, which is 0.25 meter square, and you have to find the final pressure inside the cylinder, the total work done by the gas, and the fraction of this work done against the spring to compress it. So this is the pictorial view of this problem. You can see here we have a piston cylinder device. So you can see this black line. This is a cylinder and we have a piston here. The cross section area of piston is given, which is 0.25 meter square. Initial volume is given, which is 0.05 meter cube. Initial pressure is given, which is 200 kilopascal. Now you are providing a heat to it. Initially this spring is attached here is touching the cylinder, is touching the piston, but it is not exerting any force on it. So it's just touching it somewhere here. So when heat is going to the system, this piston will start go up. So when it's going up, it will compress this spring, and there will be a compression this spring, and this spring will push back this piston downside. Now you have to find the final pressure inside the cylinder. Initially we have 200 kilopascal, and then we have a system like this one. If there is no piston, if there is no spring on it, so normally we can say that the piston cylinder device normally operates on the constant pressure. So final pressure will be the same as we have the initial pressure, which is 200 kilopascal. But we have the spring right now installed here. So when this piston will move up, this spring will exert a force on it, and you will get an extra pressure on this piston. So it's mean this is not a constant pressure process. Now remember one thing: whenever we have a spring, in our case, so if you remember, we have a equation for spring, which is F is equal to kx. Normally spring behaves linearly. There is a linear relationship when we are going to use the spring. So it's mean when we are going to increase it, when we are going to increase or like we are going to provide an input of heat, so this piston will go up and we will get a linear relationship between pressure and the volume here. So if I'm going to draw a PV diagram, so initially we have 0.05 meter cube. This is the initial volume. So we have like this one, and from here we have, at this point we have a pressure of 200 kilopascal. But when this piston will move up, the spring will exert a force on it. In the question it is given that the final volume is doubled, so final volume will be twice of V1. So you can see here V2 is simply twice of V1, so it's 0.1 meter cube. So we have final volume of 0.1. So we have 200, we have 0.05, we have 0.1. This is the process where there is no spring, and this is when we have a spring on it. We don't know about the final pressure. Right now, I've already written the answer, but we don't know about the final pressure. So we will get a linear line here due to a spring. So we have V2, you can draw a straight line upside, and you can draw a line here, and then we will get this triangle. Right now, we don't know what is P2. So we know what is V1, we know what is V2. So it means when this piston will move up, we will get a new volume here, and this volume, the increase in the volume will be equal to the area times this length, the length that this piston will cover. So piston will cover a length from here to somewhere here. So we will have a x here, and we will have an area of this piston. So with the help of this volume change, I can check the length that this piston will cover. So the displacement of the piston is simply like this one. So how much is the change in the volume, which is from here to here? So simply it's 0.1 minus 0.05, like this one, the difference between V2 and V1. So we have this one, and you can see the volume is simply area times the length. So I can find the length by dividing the change in the volume by area. So in this way I'll get 0.2 meter. So this piston will move up to a length of 0.2 meter. So if we have a x, so it means this piston is moving x distance. At the same time, this spring will be compressed with a x distance. So this spring is going to compress, so it means it will exert a force on it. So we can easily find out the amount of force with the help of the formula. So the force applied by the linear spring at the final state is simply F is equal to K times X. So the X, that is this one, and K value is given, which is 150 kilonewton per meter. So simply you have to multiply K with X, you will get 30 kilonewton. So this F is the force that this spring is exerting on this piston. So this spring is exerting a 30 kilonewton force on this piston. So if we have the force of the spring, then we can say that there is an increase in the pressure due to this spring, and we can easily find out the pressure value. How we can find the pressure value? If you know the force and even you know the area as well. The pressure is force per unit area. With the help of force per unit area, you can find out the additional pressure. So it will be force upon area. The force is 30 kilonewton divided by area, which is 0.25 meters square. So you will get a 120 kilopascal. So this is the additional pressure exerted by the spring. And the spring is basically exerting the force, and the force divided by area, you will get an extra pressure. That's why the final pressure will be simply 200 kilopascal plus this additional pressure, which is 120, and you will get 320 kilopascal. That's why if you can see here, I have written 320 kilopascal because we had 200 kilopascal the initial pressure, and due to this 30 kilopascal we will get another extra 120 kilopascal. So the final pressure will be 320 kilopascals. So we have 320 kilopascal. So in this way we can easily find out the final pressure of inside the cylinder. Now in part B, he is asking to find out the boundary work. So here we have a PV diagram, and this is the state 1, and we have the state number 2 somewhere here. So how we can find the boundary work? The boundary work is simply the area under the curve on a PV diagram. Right now, if you can see here, we have a trapezoidal shape. We have a trapezoid, you can see here. So with the help of this trapezoid, we can find the area under this curve, or we can find the area separately for this section 1 and this section 2. So if I'm going to divide, if I'm going to make two different sections, let's suppose we have a 1 where we have a wall of this length of 200 kilopascal, and this one is 0.1 and 0.05. So this difference is simply 0.05. So we can easily find out the area of this rectangle, and then we can find out the area of this triangle. So it will be half base times the altitude. Altitude is simply 320 minus 200, so we have 120 here. So 120 times this one 0.05 times half, so it will be the area of this triangle. And for this rectangle we have 200 times this 0.05, and then we can add the total area. Otherwise, we can use the formula for the trapezoid, and we can directly find out the area under this curve. So the trapezoidal area is simply this one. Simply we have 200, we have 320, we have to add these two, divide by 2, and then we have to check this length. So we have 0.1 minus 0.05, so this difference, and we have to add these two and divide by 2. In this way you will get 13 kilojoule. So this is the boundary work during whole process. So if we know what is the boundary work, so in part C we have to find the work done by the spring. So the work represented by the rectangular area, which is region 1, this one, is done against the piston and the atmosphere, while the work done represented by this triangular area is done against the spring. So this is the spring work. So if I have to find the spring work, so it will be simply half base altitude for this triangle. For this triangle. Yeah, for this triangle. So it's simply half base. So this one is base and this is altitude. So half base, which is 0.05, this one, and this is altitude, which is 320 minus 200. So we have this difference. So in this way you will get a 3 kilojoule of the work done by the spring. Total work is 13 kilojoule, and out of 13 kilojoule we have 3 kilojoule due to this spring. So moving to next question, here we have a well insulated rigid tank that contains 5 kg of saturated liquid vapor mixture. So we have mixture of water at 100 kilopascal. Initially, three quarters of the mass is in liquid phase. For this rigid tank, we are going to provide an electric resistor placed in the tank. Is connected to a 110 volt source, and a current of 8 ampere flows through the resistor when this switch is turned on. Determine how long it will take to vaporize all the liquid in the tank. Also show the process on a TV diagram. So we have TV diagram, temperature versus volume diagram, with respect to saturation line. So here, if you can see, we have 5 kg and 100 kilopascal, and we have the mixture. So it's mean if I'm going to draw a TV diagram with the saturation, and we are going to draw a dome of the vapor mixture. So it's basically inside the dome. Initially, 3/4 of the mass is in liquid phase. 3/4 of the mass is in liquid phase. And then we have the electric work, that is 110 volt and 8 amperes, and we don't know about the time, so we have to find the time, so that the whole mass is going to vaporize. So here, if you can see, we have a tank. It's written it's a rigid tank. So it's mean when you are going to supply the heat, the volume will not change. So we will have a constant volume process. Here you can see here. So we have like this to this. So we are saying that it's a constant volume process. Initially, the state number 1 is inside this dome because it is in vapor mixture, like saturated vapor mixture. So we have somewhere here. And then due to constant volume, it's going up. This line is going up to this point, because at this point we will get the complete vaporized liquid. Sorry, it's not liquid, it's basically vapors. So it will the complete liquid will be vaporized at point number 2. So this is the TV diagram for this process. So we have state number 1, we have state number 2. Right now we don't know the properties at 1 and 2. We only know the pressure. If we know the pressure and it is given that it is in the mixture region, so it's mean we have to use the table A4, A5. A4 is basically for temperature table and A5 is for the pressure table. So we are going to use the table A5 and we will check the properties against 100 kilopascal because 100 kilopascal is given. A6 is for superheated steam. So right now we are not dealing with the superheated. So at point number one, if I'm for this system, if I'm going to apply the energy balance, so energy balance is simply the energy coming into the system minus the energy going out from the system is equal to the delta energy of the system, where we have delta E system including the internal kinetic and potential energies. Normally we neglect the kinetic and potential energies for stationary systems, and in and out energies that are written on the left hand side. We have only heat, work and mass. For closed system we don't have any mass, so we will have only heat and work. So in all questions, in the previous question as well, I'm using the same relation, and I'm putting heat, work, and mass, and I'm neglecting the mass term because right now we are dealing with the closed system. When we will solve the question for the open system, then we will include the mass terms as well. So for this case, if I'm going to write the energy equation, so you can see here we have only electric work that is going inside the system. So for energy in, we have electric work, and we can easily write down the electric work value. So it will be equal to electric work is simply V times I times delta T. So VIT, voltage times the current times the time that it will take place. On the other hand side, we have, you can see we have only constant volume process, and here we will only get delta U. So we will have a delta U here, and there is no energy out, and energy in is only electric work. So you can see here, we can write down like this one. We have electric work equal to delta U, and I can write this one as M U2 minus U1, while this electric work is equal to VI delta T. Voltage is given, I is given. We don't know about the delta T. We have to find the delta T, or like we have to find the time required. The mass is given, which is 5 kg, and we don't know about the U1 and U2. We have to simply find the U1 here and U2 here, and simply we have to put in this equation, and you will get the time required. So it's simple. Just we have to find the values of U1 and U2. For U1, for this U1, we are going to use the table A5 because this is in mixture region. So from table A5 against 100 kilopascal, simply we are going to check the value of V. We are going to check the value of because it's in mixture, so we have to check the VF and VG as well, and even UF and UG as well, because we have to use the formula to get the values at point number 1, which is inside the mixture. So these are the values from table A5. So against pressure, which is 100 kilopascal, and value of X or the quality is 0.25, because in the question it is written as 3/4 of the liquid of 3/4 of the substance is in liquid phase. So remaining 25% or 1/4 is in vapor phase. So X value is 0.25. So at 100 kilopascal, we are going to check the VF value, the volume value at saturated liquid, VG value, the volume value at saturated vapor line. Then we are going to check UF and UG as well. Normally, if you see on the steam table, you will not find you will not find VFG. Actually, VFG or UFG are the difference between UG minus UF and VG minus VF. In case of volume, the difference is very small, because if you are going to subtract VG minus VF, you will get a very low value. So normally in the tables, the VFG values are not given, but you can easily subtract if you have to find the VFG. So VFG is simply VG minus VF. So when we have VF and VG and X value is given, then we can use the formula and we can find the volume at point number 1 So it will be simple VF plus X VFG. So I know what is VF. VF is this one 0.001043 plus we have X value of 0.25 and then we have VFG. VFG simply VG minus VF. So you can see here this is VG minus VF. So this is the difference between VG and VF, and we have to multiply with the X value and then we have to add with VF, and in this way you will get the volume at point number 1. So this is the specific volume at point number 1. In the similar way we can find the U1 as well. So the internal energy at point number 1 is simply UF plus X UFG. UF from table is simply 417.40. So we have the UF value plus X value times UFG. Right now we have the direct value of UFG. Otherwise, if UG is given, then you can say that UFG is equal to UG minus UF, and then you have to perform one more step, and you have to find UG minus UF. Right now we have UFG. We have the direct value of the UFG. Simply by putting the values, you will get the U1 as well. So we have V1, we have U1. So we know the properties at point number 1, and we know the properties at point number. We know the property of V and the entire energy at point number 1. So what about point number 2? If you can see here, at point number 2, because we have a constant volume process, So it's means the volume here, the volume at point number 2 will be same as point number 1. So V2 is equal to V1, and this V2 is also equal to VG. So here V2 is V1, which is this one, because V1 is 0.42431. So V2 is V1, and it is on saturated vapor line. Now with the help of this VG, because V2 is basically VG, so with the help of this VG, we have to find the U2. So using the table either A4 or A5, we have to check the V2 value, and in any case, if there is a need of interpolation, then we have to perform the interpolation, and then we will get the value of U2. So U2 from the table is simply 2556.2 kJ per kilogram. So this is the internal energy at point number 2. Now we have the internal energy at point number 1, we have the internal energy at point number 2. So with the help of this formula, we can easily check what is the time required, because we know what is V, we know what is current, we know mass, we know about the U1 and U2. So remaining we have delta T, and in this way you can find the delta T, and when you are going to solve this one, you will get 9186 second or 153.1 minute. So simply this is 110 volt, this is 8 ampere, this is delta T equal to 5 kilo for mass, this is U2 minus U1, and here at the end this one is basically kilo. That's why I'm using a kilo sign here, or like I'm going to multiply with 1000 here, because this one, the value of U and H are normally given in terms of kilo. So in order to avoid this kilo, I have to multiply with the 1000 value, and then you will get a time required to vaporize the complete liquid, and it will be equal to 9186 second, or it will take 153.1 minute. So it's been around 2.5 hour, even more than 2.5 hour. So in this way we have solved this one, this question. Now moving to the next question, we have another question here. So in the next question, we have piston cylinder device. Again, we have piston cylinder device with a set of stops on the top. Initially contains 3 kg of air. So right now we have air, so it's an ideal gas. So we cannot use the steam table. Other than we have to use PV is equal to MRT. So we have air at 200 kilopascal and 20 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees Celsius. So temperature is given, but we have to use in Kelvin. So 27 plus 273, so it will be around 300 Kelvin. It is now transferred to the air, and the piston rises until it hits the stops. At which point the volume is twice the initial volume. More heat is transferred until the pressure inside the cylinder also double. So it's mean we have the combination of two different process. So in the first process we have the constant pressure because piston is moving up without any restriction, and in the second one it is stopped due to the stoppers provided, and then pressure is going to increase. So it's basically constant volume process. So in the question, you have to determine the work done and the amount of heat transfer for this process. Also show the process on a PV diagram. So if I'm going to draw the schematic diagram, so it will be like this one. We have a piston cylinder device. So we have the piston here at 200 kilopascal and 27 degrees Celsius. So heat is provided and this piston is going up and it's going to hit this stop. During this process, you can see the pressure here is basically the volume is going to double. So volume is twice the initial volume, so V2 is doubled. So when this piston will stop here, after that it will become a constant volume process and you are going to add more heat and the pressure will increase until pressure is going to be doubled. So we have constant pressure volume where this piston is going to rise up to this point, and then we have the constant volume process where you will get a pressure increase. So we have to solve it in with two different process. So if I'm going to draw the PV diagram, so it will be like this one. So from 1 to 2 we have a constant pressure process, and from 2 to 3 we have a constant volume process. Constant pressure and the constant volume. And the question, you can see they are asking to find out the work done and the amount of heat transferred So here for the work done, for the constant volume process we don't have any work. For the constant pressure process, which is the first process, we can say that the work done or the boundary work is simply P V2 minus V1. So first of all we have to find the pressure values and the volume values at point number 1, 2 and 3, and then we can easily solve this question. So here if I'm going to write down the energy balance, it will be like this one. So we have energy in minus energy out equal to delta E system. From the table A1 you can check the value of R, which is gas constant. We cannot use the universal gas constant because we are not dealing with the molar mass, rather than we are dealing with the mass, so we have to use the gas constant. So the gas constant for air is simply 0.287 kilo. So after applying the energy balance on the system, you can see here we have the Q in, which is the heat is going inside the system. Then we have some boundary work. Here we have to process. In the first process we have a boundary work, and in the second process we don't have any boundary work, and then it will be equal to delta U, and this delta U will be equal to M U3 minus U1. We have the final one which is like 3, and we have the initial one which is 1, so U3 minus U1. So this energy balance is basically going to cover the whole process from 1 to 2 to 3. So we have equation like this one. We have Q in minus boundary work equal to delta U, and it's equal to M U3 minus U1. So it's been, if we know about the U1 U3, then we can easily find out the boundary work and the Q in. So I can rewrite the equation like this one because we have to find the Q. So first of all I'm going to find the volumes, because if we know the volume then we can easily find out the boundary work. So here the initial and final volumes, we can solve the ideal gas equation, which is P is equal to MRT, and with the help of P is equal to MRT we can find out the initial volume, and then we can find the final volume as well. So for the initial volume we have the equation P is equal to MRT, or we can write P, then we have a specific volume is equal to RT. So we have the equation PV equal to RT, or in terms of volume we can write like this one: PV is equal to MRT. So V1 is M RT1 upon P1. Mass value is given, the value of R is already given, and basically we have checked from the table. The T1 is given, which is 27 degrees Celsius or 300 Kelvin, and P1 is given, which is 200 kilopascal. So simply by putting the values we can get the value of V1, which is around 1.29 meter cube. So this is mass, this is R value, this is 300 Kelvin, and this is 200 kilopascal. Here if you can see, I didn't multiply with the 1000 here, because already this R value is in terms of kilo, so this kilo will cancel out with this kilo. Either you have to multiply this by 1000 and you have to multiply this by 1000 and then 1000 will cancel out with this 1000, but ultimately you will get V1 which is equal to 1.29 meter cube. So at point number 1 we have P1, we know what is it P1, and even we know what is the V1. It is a closed system, so mass will be constant. Now when this piston is going to move upside, so at point number 2 the volume is double, so V2 is simply the twice of V1. So we can say that the volume 2 is simply 2V1, but the volume 2 and the volume 3 both are same, because from V2 from state number 2 to state number 3 we have a constant volume process. So if we have the constant volume process, so V2 and V3 are same. So V3 or V2 is simply twice of V1, so simply 2 times the 1.29, that is equal to 2.58 meter cube. So we know what is the V1, we know what is V2, we know V3, but we don't know about T3. So initially if you see, initial pressure is given which is 200 kilopascal. So what about P2? P2 will be same, because in the start we have a constant pressure process. So here if you can see, this one is constant pressure process, so the value of P1 is equal to P2. And what about P3? At P3 the pressure is basically twice of P2. So here you can see the P3 is 400 kilopascal, because it is the twice of the P1 or P2. Now we have to find the T3. So simply using this equation, P1 V1 upon T1 is equal to P3 V3 upon T3, or we can use PV is equal to MRT, because we know P3, we know V3, even we know what is mass, even we know about the R value. So with the help of same equation, PV is equal to MRT, I can find out the value of T3. So it's up to you whether you are going to use this one or PV is equal to MRT, but it will be like P3 V3 equal to MRT3. So with the help of either this one or the basic equation, you can find out the value of T3, and you will get T3 which is equal to 1200 Kelvin. So we know the properties at point number 1 and point number 3. So now we are going to check the boundary work first. So for the boundary work, we have two processes. We have the process from 1 to 2, and we have the process from 2 to 3. For the process 2 to 3, because volume is constant, then we will not get any boundary work for process 2 to 3, because for constant volume process the boundary work is equal to 0. For process 1 to 2 we have a constant pressure, and for constant pressure the boundary work is simply P times delta V, or simply if you are going to integrate the basic equation which is the del of P dV, then you will get the same answer. So the boundary work is simply integral of P dV 1 to 2 is simply P2 V3 minus V2 or delta V, and then we have this one, we have 200 kilopascal, and then we have V3 minus V2, and this way you will get the answer which is equal to this one. And sorry, there is a mistake, this one is V2 and this is V1, this one is V1. By mistake I've written here V2, because V3 and V2 are same. This is basically V1, this one is V1. So we have either V2 or V3, both are same, both have the same value, but this one is V1. So we have P V2 minus V1 or P V3 minus V1, you will get the same answer. So the boundary work is equal to 258 kilojoule. So please remember that this one is V1. Now we have the boundary work. We know about the temperatures at point number 1, point number 2, even point number 3. There's no need to find the temperature at point number 2, but we can find the temperature at point number 2 if there is any need. Now using the basic equation that we rearranged during the energy balance, we need the value of U2 and we need the value of U1 and U3. So from the table A17 we can check the value of U1 and U2, So it's U1 is at 300 Kelvin, so it's simply 214.07, and the value at point number 3 is 933.33 kilojoule per Kelvin. So we have U1 at 300 Kelvin, and then we have the U2 at temperature T3, so it's basically 1200 Kelvin, so you will get 933.33. This is one way to find out the value of U. We have an alternate solution as well. I'll show you in the next slide. So if you are going to use this table, then you can easily find out the value of U1 and U2, and then with the help of this equation, this is basically this equation that we already solved here, this one. So simply we know what is U3, even we know what is U1, boundary work we have already calculated, mass value is given. So with the help of this formula we can find out the Qn. So Qn is simply this one. So we have mass, this is 3 kg, which is mass, times this is mass times U3 minus U1, and then we have boundary work, and the answer is 2416 kilojoule. We have an alternate method to find out the value of Q. The equation is same. We are going to use the same equation, but instead of using this table A17, I will use the average value of Cp or Cv. So how we can solve this one? So here we have the alternate solution. So for the average value, we have to check the average temperature. So we have 300 plus 1200 divided by 2. So I'll get 750 Kelvin. So from table A to B, the Cv average value is 0.8. So instead of going to check the values of U1 and U3, I'm going to replace this U by Cv T. So U3 will be Cv T3 and U1 will be Cv T1. So taking the C outside, so it will be Cv T3 minus T1. So in this way, we have the equation mCv T3 minus T1. So I'm going to write the equation like this one plus boundary work, and you will get this one. Here, I'm not going to use the Cp. Even we have the constant pressure process, because U is only linked with the Cv, and in the question we have U rather than we don't have any H value. If we have the H value, then we will use Cp. Right now we have U, so we have to use Cv. So this is the alternate way to find out the Qn value. So it's up to you. Either you can use the table A17 or you can use this one. If you know the average value, then it's easy. Moving to the next question, we have another question here. So here, if you can see, we have 1000-watt iron whose base plate is made of 0.5 centimeter thick aluminum alloy. So this is given the name, title or name of the alloy, which is 2024 T6. Normally different alloys are characterized by a number. So this is a one type of aluminum alloy. So for this aluminum alloy, the density is given, which is 2770 kilogram per meter cube, and the Cp value is given, which is 875 joule per kg times the temperature or Celsius degree Celsius. Here the Cp is given, and we have the aluminum alloy. If you can recall your memory, I've already told you that for solid or liquid, we're not going to use the word Cp or Cv. Instead, we are going to use a word which is C, because for incompressible substance, the constant pressure, specific heat at constant pressure and the specific heat at constant volume are identical, and normally we use C rather than Cp and Cv. So when I'll solve this one, I'll put C rather than Cp. Now, for this iron, the base plate has a surface area of 0.03 meters square. Initially, the iron is in thermal equilibrium with the ambient air at 22 degrees Celsius. Assuming 85% of the heat generated and the resistance wire is transferred to the plate. So normally we have the iron, and in this iron we have the wires, the resistance wire, and the total capacity of this iron is 1000 watt, and 85% of the heat generated during this during by these wires is transferred to the plate. So simply 85% or 0.85 of the 1000 watt, so 850 watt will be the supply of the heat that is provided to the plate. Now you have to determine the minimum time needed for the plate temperature to reach 140 degrees Celsius from 22 degrees Celsius. Initially we have a 22 degrees Celsius temperature, and then we have to maintain a 140 degree Celsius temperature of the plate, and in this question we have to find the time. So normally for such questions, first of all we have to find the mass of the plate, because in the question the mass is not given, volume is given and area is given. So how we can find the mass? Simply we know that the mass is density times the volume, because density is mass upon volume, so mass is density times the volume. So density of the aluminum alloy is given, and what about the volume? Volume is simply area times the thickness, because area of the plate is given and the thickness is also given. So volume is simply area times the thickness of the plate, and density is already given, which is 2770, times length, which is 0.005 meter, and then area of plate is 0.03 meter square. By calculating all this stuff, you will get the mass of iron base is 0.4155 kg. So this is the bottom plate of the iron. So we have the mass of the iron, which is 0.4155 kg. Now it is given in the question that 85% of the heat generated by the wire is transferred to the plate. So it's been, if the wires are generating 1000 watt, so 85% means 0.85 of the 1000 watt. So the Q in to the plate is simply 850 watt. So we have the Q in value. Now this is in term of dot, because it's watt, joule per second, so it's power rather than amount of heat. So this is the rate of heat transfer, so it's not the amount of heat, rather it's rate of heat transfer. And Q dot is basically equal to simply Q divided by time. Q dot is simply Q upon time. Now for this question, if I'm going to take the plate as a system, so for this plate I can write the energy equation like this one. We have the energy equation, which is energy in minus energy out equal to delta E system. So here we have Q in, and on the other side we have something which is called delta U. So we have Q in, there's no Q out in the question, or there's no energy out, and on the right hand side we have only delta U, and I can write the equation like M U2 minus U1. Now for the energy equation we have Q in, and this Q in is simply Q dot times time, because the flow rate, the rate of heat transfer is simply Q upon time. So I'm just going to multiply the time with the Q dot, and then you will get the Q in value. We have delta U here, so it's simply M U2 minus U1. So if I'm going to rewrite the equation, so it will be like this one. So it's simply this Q in is simply Q dot multiplied with the time equal, and then we have U, so it's simply CT. So I'm not going to use the CP or CV word here, so rather I'm using C. So M is this one, M, and instead of U I'm writing CT2, and instead of U1 I'm going to write the CT1. So taking C common, so it's simply MC_T2 minus T1. So Q dot multiply with the time equal to MC_T2 minus T1. So T1 is given, which is 22 degrees Celsius. We know about the T2 as well. C value is given, the value of M is given, and Qn is given. What about the delta T? So here we can find the delta T. Simply you have to rearrange the equation. By rearranging, you will get delta T equal to MC delta T upon Qn with dot. So M is given. M is not given, that rather we calculated the value of mass. C is given, delta T is given, which is 140 minus 22 divided by Qn dot, which is the 85% of the 1000 watt. With the help of all these values, you have to just put the values in this equation, and then you will get the answer. So this is mass, delta T, C values, then delta T divided by qn dot, and then you will get the 50.5 second, and this is the time to reach the base plate temperature from 22 to 140 degree Celsius. Now we have another question for today class. This question is this one. We have a 4 meter by 5 meter by 6 meter room. So we have a room. The dimension of the room are given. Is to be heated by a baseboard resistance heater. It is desired that the resistance heater be able to raise the air temperature in the room from 7 to 23 degrees Celsius. So delta T is given within 15 minutes. So time is also given 15 minutes. So you have to multiply with the 60 to get the minute time in seconds. Assuming no heat loss from the room, so there is no Q out, and an atmospheric pressure of 100 kilopascal. Determine the required power of the resistance heater. Assume constant specific heat at constant at room temperature. So we have the constant specific heat at room temperature. So here we have the schematic diagram. We have a room here. For this room, we have the dimensions of 4 meter by 5 meter by 6 meter. With the help of this one, I can find out the volume of this room. Right now, we have the 7 degrees Celsius temperature, and we have to change it from 7 to 23 degrees Celsius as given in the question. The fluid is basically air, so we have to use physical MRT if needed, and we have the electric resistors. So for this air, from table A1 we can check what is the value of R, and from table A2 we can check the value of CV, which is 0.718 kilojoule per kilogram Kelvin at room temperature. So these are from the table. So if I'm going to write the energy balance, so energy balance is simply like this one. We have energy in minus energy out, which is equal to delta E system. So only thing is the electric work which is going inside the system. So this is the energy balance. So we have delta E. We have the work done, the electric work which is going in equal to delta U, and I can replace this delta U by MC delta T, because this M U2 minus U1. So I can replace U1 and U2 by C delta T as I did in the previous question. So simply M CV T2 minus T1. So we know what is M, we know what is CV, T2 and T1 is given. I think M is not given, so we can find the value of M as well. So we have to find the power, which is this one. So M CV T2 minus T1. So T1 is given, T2 is given, and CV value is we have already checked from the table. What about M? For the M, we have to either it's given or not. I'm sorry, I have to check. So my volume is given, temperature is given, initial volume is initial pressure is given. So we know what is P. V is given, T is given. So with the help of PV is equal to MRT, I can find the value of mass as well. So this one is M P1 V1 upon RT1. So what is P1? It's 100 kilopascal. What is V1? V1 is simply 4 times 5 times 6, which is 120. So R value is given, and this is the temperature value. So I'll get the mass of the air, which is 149.3 kilogram, and then simply we have to put in this equation, and then you will get what is the electric work. Right now, this one is the work in terms of joule, and this one is the power. As I mentioned in the previous question, I can simply replace the work by power, just multiply with the time, because this power is simply work upon time. So I can replace this work by simply power times power multiplied with the time. So after getting the value of M, so simply you have to put the values in the equation, and then you will get the power. So for this question, I'm getting 1.91 kilowatt power. Simply you have to put the values in the question. In the equation, and it's simple calculation, and then you will get the answer. So this is the end for today class. In any case, if there is any query, you can ask through email or message section. Thank you.